Hi guys, I'm 100% different from everyone that you will see out there. I guarantee it. My techniques are completely different, probably controversial. I'm going to get loads of comments saying you're just doing it all wrong. Why are you doing it like this? But it's been over 10 years, 12 years of refining what I think is the best possible technique for me. These are led by a couple of factors. One is cost, two is speed. So I've got to the way I like to be. Stay tuned, find out everything to do with my finishing. Don't go anywhere, and I'll see you in a minute. Right, so let's talk about materials, okay? So when I started off, it was always about cost. You know, starting a business, got to be low cost. And I went for standard MDF, okay? And to be honest, I haven't really changed that. I've experimented over the years. You can look in my finishing playlist and you'll see me experimenting with Finsa, MR, MDF and standard. And I'm getting really good finishes on all of them. And it's just, it did not make sense to go any more expensive. So just to put that into perspective for you, I'm getting a sheet of standard MDF from my builder's merchant, not B&Q, not Wicks, nowhere dodgy like that, for £17.50 a sheet. Okay, so £17.50 is when I buy a packet of 50. I buy 25mm, 18mm and 6mm impacts, and that gives me the lowest cost. But when I say standard, I don't mean the cheap light stuff that's really, really tan colour. I'm going for the dark brown looking, hardly any flecks of white in there, hardly any pine wood dots in there. It's really, really weighty. That is what I'm going for. And this is the key of getting really good finishes and not having any grain raising on you, or very little, for £17.50 a sheet. Because moisture resistant, top of my head, 30-ish quid plus VAT. Finsa, £50 maybe plus VAT, depending on where you are, yeah? This is just rounded figures. But this £17.50 all in, you've got somewhere to store a pack. That is my starting point, is going for the standard MDF, keeping it low cost, and that is key for me. Okay, so let's talk about my journey into the paints, okay? So I've gone from water-based, oil-based, I've tried them all, mostly off the shelf until I found a really good brand, which I'm going to get to right at the end. This is where I am right now. As you can see, around me are all tins of off-the-shelf paints, Duluxes, the Johnstones, yeah, those kind of brands, and Leylands, and they worked for me for a while. And they got their ups and their downs. Let's go through them all right now. Okay, to start is the primer. Okay, I used to use just the standard MDF primer, just the cheapest one I could find. It was generally Leyland's in Toolstation. It was about £25 for 2.5 litres or 5 litres. It was quite expensive for what it was. And when you're using an airless spray and you're spraying a whole wardrobe, this tin won't get you very far. You're going to need, this is 2.5, you're going to need at least 5 to 7.5 litres to spray a decent sized wardrobe with primer. So it does get eaten up quite quickly. I found that as you're sanding this back as well, it did go through to the MDF quite quickly, and you've got to be really careful with the sander not to go back, otherwise you've got to start again and do another coat. So that was my first learning curve there. And yeah, that's primer undercoat. I then moved on to, let's talk about top coats. So top coat generally for me was kind of like a standard off the shelf Johnstone's Dulux eggshell. Always an eggshell because I just like the sheen. It's wipeable. Remember, everything I'm talking about is water based, not using oil based whatsoever. And this was good until you get dark colours. When you spray dark colours, don't know what happens. Still not worked out to this day. They just take forever to cure. If you're going for a navy blue, for example, you could wait 2 weeks for it to be stone hard. It dries within a day, but yeah, if you're stacking, or if you're putting fingerprints on it, it will take a fingerprint mark. So that was the downside with the darks of the top coat. But it worked for me for a while, and I got through it, and the lights were really good. And I was getting decent finishes, but this is quite thick, gloopy paint. So when you're spraying, you do get like a textured finish. I'm going to be moving on to the paint I use soon, because that's giving me a nice flat finish. So this was one. And then I was like, oh, this system where I'm using this primer and this top coat, or a selection of these types of primers and a selection of these type of top coats, were kind of like, firstly, I didn't want a sprayer to do one and then a sprayer to do the other. So I wanted a paint that could do it all. So this is where the silk came in. I was kind of like doing trial and error on a lot of paints. And this is where the trade silk paint, especially the wicks, I'm liking the wicks. It's low cost and cheap, and you get a lot for your money. This is only £20 for 10 litres, £2 a litre. And to the day I still use it. I'll talk about it a little bit more in detail soon. So for this makes an absolutely outstanding primer. Okay, you're not going to think it, but trust me, I've been using this for so long now, and I'm going to tell you a little secret. I still do use it 95% of the time, even with my fancy top coat paint that I'm going to use, that I am using. So this was my next stage in my ladder, shall we say, the trade wicks silk. And I was like, I'm spraying the primer. It's really good. It's really gloopy. It covers really well. The opacity is very high. Got some dark MDF like I showed you earlier. It covers outstandingly with one heavy coat. It dries quickly. It gives you a decent flat finish. It sands great. It doesn't sand like powder. So the fancy primers that you're going to get and this primer that you get, it sands into a dust and it coats your workshop up. And that drove me mad. So I scrapped that. That was one of the reasons why I scrapped that system too. This doesn't do that. It sands into kind of balls sometimes. Got to keep an eye on your papers sometimes. After about an hour of using the same paper, you need to just put a bit of rubber on it or swap your papers over. This is fantastic for priming, trust me. And you can get the grey, okay? So if you are priming darker colours, they've got a darker grey colour, so you can get this in grey and in white. I've gone through thousands of litres of this. I'm going to say a couple of thousand at least. So that was my primer at the start. And I was like, well, I need a top coat. So then what I did was I trialed it on the top coat. So I've done my primer, sanded it back, and then I sprayed it over those pieces. And from that point on, that was the game changer. I was like, yep, this is it. It went on nicely. It got great coverage. It was quick drying. And that was it. It was just amazing. Albeit there's not a lot of colours you can choose from. I think you can pick 3 or 4 colours. So if you are doing other colours, that was a little bit of a challenge, as in I'd have to go back to the Johnstones and the Duluxes and stuff for the top coats, for the colours. But white is 95% of what I do here. And yeah, I started using that silk from that point on. So let's just talk about the finishes of that silk in particular. It was very good. It was quite textured. I wouldn't say it was perfectly flat. It wasn't. Slight texture to it. But once it had cured, it was super, super tough. It was really, really durable. And to this day, if I have got a small job or a low-cost job that somebody wants me to do, they're like, I need cost, blah, 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 I will be using the same paint. I will be using the trade silk. I always use it for my primer still, okay? I'm using this brand new paint for the top coat, which I'm going to show you in a moment. Don't go anywhere. But for that top coat, I still use the silk. I still love it because the top coat brand that I'm using, I'm going to show you, they do the primers, but I don't like the dust that it kicks off when you're sanding. It goes everywhere. I really love my trade silk primer, and I still love it for top coats on lower cost jobs. So let's go and talk about the top coat that I'm on now, and basically the end of my journey, my learning curve, because I do have 2 sprayers in here. I'll reveal it right now, okay? So I go to a place called Amicus UK. It's in Park Royal in London. Fantastic small company run by Rob and Casper. And I'm using the Venice paint that they supply. They do 2K as well as 1K, and they do other branded stuff as well, okay? So not just this, but this is what I like to use I don't use 2K. I just like using 1K because the 2K sets in my machines. And these are the machines that I actually use. Airless sprayers, 695, 595. As you can see, I've got the old school trade silk in that one. For all my primers, always there. And then I've got my top coats, always here. The Venites, 1K top coat paint. Okay, so this is what I use. I use the Venites, 1K top coats, water-based for all my top coats now. And they also do colours for me. So I'm going to read the tin. Okay, it says waterborne, pigmented, internal lacquer. I'm guessing that's waterborne, non-pigmented or white internal lacquer. That's the name they use for these paints. Okay, this is what it is. And these are the tins. I'll just go through loads of it now. But it sprays lovely. I can have the pressures set down lower on my machines. This paint needs higher pressure because it's thicker and gloopier. This one is more smoother and silkier. Higher pressure, maybe about 15 to 1800 psi. Lower pressure, around 1000-ish, 800 to 1000-ish psi for that, which means you're going to get less overspray, less wastage, less paint used. Right, so this is the moment you've probably all been waiting for, isn't it? So, what is my chosen preferred format to spraying my MDF, my way of spraying, my technique? What is it all? So to start with, I have the airless sprayer here, spraying out. This is a 595. I'm using the trade silk as a primer. I do one coat on the trade silk primer, and that is it. Once that's down, it's dried in about an hour and a half. If it doesn't dry, that orange kerosene heater over there will heat the workshop up and it will dry within an hour and a half. In the summer, it's quick. When I do sand back, I use these papers here. They're the best by far because they've got so many holes and they last a long time. I like my paper to be slightly worn. I use the Sear 6-inch sanding discs P240, but I like them to be a little bit worn out. Okay, I like a worn out disc. Okay, because the 240s are still too rough. Could use 320, but I find them too smooth. So I like to use these first in the workshop, keep them, and just use a partially worn disc for my sanding back of all my silk undercoat. Okay, so that is what I use with a 6-inch sander, orbital sander with the extractor connected, again from Amicus, and my sanding sponges. 240-ish grade. They've got grades like fine, extra fine. I think this is fine, 240-ish grade. They are amazing. These are amazing. I love going over the front edge of my shelf. And like, for example, here, the front edge, but you can wrap it around and do the arises at the same time because we do the roundovers. Check this video out if you want to know what a roundover is and what cutter I use to get the perfect roundover. Sanding sponge and the discs, Sear discs, P240, but worn. They're what I use to denib all my undercoat. Remember, it's only one coat, and that is it. One heavy coat with the airless sprayer. I go slowly, but I don't go too slowly, get pooling. You need to get the knack of it when you're using an airless sprayer. But once that is dusted down, we will really go to town with the duster and the air compressor to get them nice and dust free. Bring them in here, and as you can see behind me as well, I've got another airline. And when I am spraying, and again, I use my hand and a brush and the airline to blow it off with the extractors on to get rid of the dust for our top coat. Make sure it's not too cold because this paint, what I'm going to talk about next, the Venites top coat, is susceptible to any cold. Okay, I'll try and leave it in the subtitles what the cold is, what you can't go below. But as long as it's not freezing, I think it's fine. But other than that, that is the only thing you need to be aware of. This is the 1K top coat. I talked about that earlier. It's water-based. It goes through the machines. It can stay in my machine. Doesn't go off in the machine like 2K paint does. And all I do with that is one heavy top coat. Heavy-ish. Medium to heavy top coat. You need to feel it. Okay? You need to see it and spray it and get the experience of spraying with airless before you kind of like get the exact knack of what you're doing and what you're spraying. Once you sprayed a few jobs, you know what you're talking about. You know what you're doing. Yeah, so that is it. If I am doing a colour, I use the exact paint again from Amicus. This is all from Amicus. This is my new thing. They spray the same type of paint, the 1K paint for me. I just say, Casper, can you mix me up a tin of 1K top coat, 20% sheen. I like 20% sheen. It's like eggshell sheen. In this rail number or this colour to match something, I'm not going to say any particular names, but they can do that. They do these tins, which are fantastic. They last me ages. They just live in there. I'm not going to lie. I never really clean these machines out. They just live the paint in. Don't hate me for that. It's been about 3 years and they're still going. They get serviced. Sprayaholic, if you're watching this, you're going to hate me. But yeah, they mix the colours. And around me, you would have seen the grey. That's what I've been spraying. 2 litres. But I spray that with the hopper version. Let me quickly show you that. This is the Greyco GX FF, and it's got the hopper and it's got the grey in there. Okay, so that's what's spraying small amounts of paints. I love this. I'm going to leave links in the description for all the bits and pieces. Let's go back. I've got my little gadget that follows me now. I love this thing. So there we go. So I'm using these for my primers and sometimes a cheap job to stay as top coat because it still is decent as top coat. All right, trust me on that. And if you're on a budget, it's the MDF with this undercoat and this top coat, and that will do you. It did me for like 7, 8, 9 years. And then for me to just go that extra level on the ladder, it's the Venite's top coats now from now on over this. Okay, Venite's probably not going to love me for saying that. This is my particular way of doing it, my method, because I just don't like the dust in the workshop environment, you know, where it floats around. Although it's a better primer, probably professional. Yeah. So remember, I'm using airless. I'm not using compressor type sprayers, so that may change things for you. I just find these are quick. There's no mixing up paints in little pots and spraying like kind of bit at a time. Just bang it in. I've got 20 kilos in there. That can last me 5 medium-sized jobs, maybe ish. More if they're small. Don't need to touch it. Turn the machine on, pumps up, bang, straight in the gum. Covers heavy straight away. The compressors, yeah, they are slower. They give you a little bit better of a better finish, atomized, finer, that sort of stuff. But I'm still getting really good finishes. I hope I haven't missed anything, guys. If I have, leave a comment. Hopefully get back to you. If you want anything carried on from this video, for example, the kit I use, the racks, there's tons of stuff. But if you want more in detailed stuff, let me know and I'll carry on doing this. But for now, head to Amicus. I'm leaving codes for you because I'm with them. I help them out. They help me out. And here's some codes for you right now to get some discounts. Extremely lovely people. Remember, they hand mix their paints. They don't put it in a machine and go, there's your colour. They do it by hand, the old school method. So you know you're going to get your colour absolutely on point. So there we go. So I'm going now. I've got sore knees, got to do some work. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for watching. Any questions, just fire them at me. Gotta go. See ya.